Hey, what's going on, guys? We got a lot to go over today, and we're gonna let's say it's not too much of good things to go over, but we're gonna talk about this roster revolution that came out today. That came out 3 hours late. EA is not on the ball with dropping content as of late. They've been dropping late a lot of the time, but I'm gonna be showing you all the cards that dropped today and my thoughts and opinions on them. So as you can see here, we got Eric Kendricks, the LTD for today. Let's just say this card is not good. I'm gonna be straight up, this card is not good. 93 speed is not good enough anymore, especially if you want to compete at a high level. Nobody's gonna be using this card. I wouldn't be surprised if these cards are very cheap. But they do get these discounted abilities. They get like this roster revolution token thing, which in my opinion sucks too. It's more of like a Ring of Honor situation last year. If you weren't there, what I mean by Ring of Honor situation, you had to pay to get more tokens. So you'd have to pay to get a token, and then you would get his last ability spot, and the token would give you the last ability in the bucket. So he normally gets mid zone for 2, unfakeable for 1, and then this last one, secure tackler, that's the one the token would unlock for you. So for every card from here on out that we show in this video, that's the same situation. The token will give you this last ability in the bucket. So this Eric Kendricks does get mid zone for 2, but you can't justify 93 speed. Moving on to Adam Thielen, he is pretty solid. There's not too much bad about this card. He is usable, but the problem is he's an LTD, which means he's going to be LTD price. Even though he's not the greatest, he's definitely not top 10 receiver, maybe top 10, but he's 94 speed, which sucks. You really want to see your LTDs be the best cards in the drop, and let's just say none of these cards were really that good. I mean, we could check out his abilities real quick. Same thing with the token. Slot-O-Matic for 2, Slot Apprentice for 1, and then Short In for 1 AP if you put on the token. No abilities right there that are worth using at all, honestly. The only ability you want for a receiver is Route Tech, and we don't really got that yet discounted. Moving on to Dylan Parham, if you're a Raiders fan, this hooks up the Raiders team. Solid offensive lineman. The stats are cool, but let's get to the abilities real quick. Identifier, linchpin, and then with the token gets natural talent. These aren't really, identifier is probably the only one you'd want to use here. Identifier is cool for 1 AP, and then natural talent being the one with the token, I don't think it's worth at all. It would honestly be identifier is your best bet. Moving on to Jonathan Taylor here, we have 94 speed, 94 excel. Same thing. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to understat these cards. These cards aren't on a team, they're not going to be getting used, honestly. Playmaker, if you're a playmaker guy, he might be the guy for you for 1 AP, but no one's going to be using goal line back. Jukebox is cool, but you would have to pay to get Jukebox. I would much rather use other cards without an ability than Jonathan Taylor with 94 speed. Moving on to Ed Oliver. He has 87 speed. That's pretty solid for a defensive tackle right now. We're going to go right into his abilities. Only Bills Chem, by the way. Inside stuff for 1 AP, that is pretty good. That's the best we can get right now. Reach Elite, goal line stuff, you don't want these. Honestly, inside stuff's the best one you could be running. People say double or nothing is good, but I prefer inside stuff, especially on a defensive tackle. Moving on to Justin Simmons, as you can see here, 93 speed is not cutting it. He is 6'2". I really wish they gave him 94, at least 94 speed, but they gave him 93, and that hurts that card so much, because that just means if he's not on a Broncos or Falcons team, he's really not going to be that good. And I think that, yeah, if you gave him the token, he does get mid-zone for 1. That's very good, but who would use this Justin Simmons, pay to get the token for 1 AP mid-zone, and then just not pick up Malcolm Jenkins, who gets it for 1 AP? You don't have to pay for a token. And he's probably the same price or even cheaper than this Justin Simmons. So I honestly think they did these cards too dirty. This Justin Simmons card is honestly not too usable unless on a Broncos or Falcons team. Now moving into DeMarcus Robinson, and this is honestly one of the best cards in the drop. And you may be asking, he's 94 speed, he's not a top 10 receiver. The reason why he is potentially one of the best cards in the drop is because he's 94 speed, he's 6'1", and he is also played for the Ravens and the Chiefs. And if we all know, Ravens team is arguably the best, but the Chiefs are coming up because they're still in the playoffs, so they have a chance to be the best team. arguably soon, because everybody knows the two teams that make the Super Bowl have the best theme teams when that happens. So if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, this Demarcus Robinson on a 40 theme team has 96 speed. Ability wise, he does get deep in for 2, slot apprentice for 1, and then mid out for 1 if you use the token. Like I said, I don't think it's worth spending money for a ability that's not rel tech on a receiver. Moving on to Stephon Gilmore. He could be arguably the best corner. I wish they gave him 95 speed. He would actually be usable. He does get a bunch of chems. Bills have the most potential here. Obviously, like I said, they can make the Super Bowl. He could get up to 96 speed on a Bills theme team if you have a 40. 95 speed, I think he's in the usable if he's 95. 94, you're kind of pushing it. But he does get mid-zone if you do have the token. Mid-zone is the best KO. So if you really went and had a token to spend, mid-zone on Stephon Gilmore on a theme team wouldn't be bad. Moving over to Derek Carr, 85 speed, 95 throw power. Very solid stats across the board. But the most thing that's important about a QB is his stack. And he does get long-range Deadeye for 2, Gunslinger for 1, and then if you put the token on him, he gets inside Deadeye for 2 AP, which is not worth it at all. The stack I would run on Derek Carr, I believe we have 9 AP on offense now, so we'd run Gunslinger for 1. If you want a velocity chem, you could do that. Pass lead for 6, that's 7, and you have 2 AP to work with. Honestly, you could do what you want here. Usually gift wrap would probably work, but ideally now it'd probably be Gunslinger, Master Tack, if he can get it. He cannot get it, so Gunslinger, Hot Route Master. So that's 4, and then you could run Set Feet Lead. Gunslinger, Hot Route Master, Set Feet Lead. That'd probably be the stack I run on him. Gift wrap is very important, but to be able to squeeze in a velocity chem in his stack, that's pretty nice. Now moving on to the last champ that came out today, Bud Dupree. 92 speed, 93 excel, very lackluster. He does have some theme teams here. He does have Falcons, Steelers, Titans, Chargers. These are all sneaky good theme teams, it seems like. Titans have a bunch of good players. Steelers have some good players. Falcons got some good players. And Chargers also have some good players. They're just overall not the best. Like, overall wise, they don't have a full good lineup. They only have some key players that are really good. Like Chargers, I know, have Derwin. Titans have like Chris Johnson. Well, Chris Johnson has every chem, but there's a bunch of players you can have on the Titans. The theme teams aren't the worst here, but 92 speed you can't get over. I know he would be primarily a pass rusher though, so not the worst. Edge threat for 2 AP, no outsiders for 1, and an enforcer for 1 if you use the token. I don't think this is worth at all using any ability on him. Maybe edge threat if it was 1 AP. I'm not using no outsiders personally, but that's Bud Dupree for you guys. Now, if I'm going to give you guys an overall review of this promo, I honestly think this is one of the worst promos they've dropped all year. This or Blitz is probably the worst promo they dropped all year. I'd probably give this, if I rank this out of 10, probably like a 6, because there is some cards with potential in this drop, like the Demarcus Robinson, Stephon Gilmore, Derek Carr. They have potential. Adam Thielen's not the worst either. Parham's a lineman. You can't say an lineman's bad if he has good stats, because most people aren't using abilities on their lineman just yet. But 6 out of 10 is the best I could give this. EA really needs to learn what the game needs and how to learn what like cards are good and what isn't. Because I know EA wants to make money, and they're not going to get people buying packs if their LTD middle linebacker has 93 speed. They need to know what people want, and everybody knows they want speed, and I know they can't just give 99 speed right off the rip, but they can at least get it to the threshold. So we're seeing a lot of 95 speed users. Why not give Eric Kendricks 95 speed? You know, we're seeing a lot of 95 speed receivers. Why can't Adam Thielen have 95 speed? Like, it's just those little things like that to make these cards somewhat usable, but none of these cards really hit the threshold of that. So, EA really did flop with this. Not a good promo. I will not be buying any of these cards personally. Maybe the Demarcus Robinson if I do decide to make the theme team for the Chiefs or Ravens. If the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, then I'm definitely would pick up the Demarcus Robinson, but not right now. None of these cards for now. But if you didn't know, all the playoff release 3 cards were shown. We're going to go over that in a second too. These are actually a lot more, a lot better to look forward to. I'm going to show you guys these. So we're going to start off here with this Matt Milano. This Matt Milano is the head-to-head event card. So this is like the AJ Brown or the Rasul Douglas event. That's the event you would get this Matt Milano in. Very underwhelming, honestly. He's not going to be one people pick. Only 93 speed. Potentially, if the Bills get better theme team, if they make the Super Bowl, they'll get more upgrades to make him usable on a theme team. But his sheds are way too low. If he had one in the 90s, I would have been like, he's solid. But having both block sheds low 80s, that's not really nice to see. Now moving on to the champs that are coming out tomorrow, we have Nick Bolton, 94 speed, 93 XL. Okay card. The problem with Nick Bolton, he is 5'11". I think he's 5'11" at least. Nick Bolton, 94 speed. Like I said, most of these cards are going to be good if their team makes the Super Bowl. So if Nick Bolton makes the Super Bowl, you can see people making 40 Chiefs. Then you'd have 96 speed. But as of right now, most of these cards aren't topping the top tier players, but these cards are way more usable than these roster revolution cards that came out today. But Nick Bolton's going to be a solid card. Hopefully he gets like Lurk Artist for 0. Then that would make him way more usable than what I'm saying now. Now we have Taylor Rapp. He's a Bill. He was also a Ram. If you guys run Rams or Bills team. 94 speed, 96 XL. Hopefully, like I said, mid zone for 1 AP would be ideal on him. And also running a Bills or Rams team to get him to that 95 speed, make him somewhat competitive. 94 speed is kind of pushing it for what's really usable in competitive Madden. Now, I don't know how to say his name, but it's the center for Washington. Like I said about all offensive linemen that have come out as champs. Solid stats, nothing wrong with it. Unless there's one drastically different, so let's say like that was like 80 or something, then I would point it out. But there's nothing wrong with this card. You're not really going to see anybody running abilities on their offensive line unless they have like an AP to use on identifier or something like that. But this card is very solid. Washington keeps getting offensive linemen. It seems like they're saving up their skills players for potential Super Bowl if they do make it. But Washington theme team is still top 5, so this card is definitely usable and it will help the theme team a lot. Now moving on to Zach Bond. Me and EA are going to have a problem. All year long, they've put Zach Bond as a speed rusher. I'm letting you guys know now. I don't know if you guys have watched Eagles games at all this year. Zach Bond is an off-ball linebacker. He has not rushed the passer in a three-point stance or on the edge at all this year. And they keep making his cards this year pass rushers. Like 94 finesse move, that's not him. That's not his play style. If I compare his play style to anybody, it's more of like a Dre Greenlaw. Like think of the Fred Warners, those off-ball linebackers. That's how he plays. He does not play like Micah Parsons or a TJ Watt. That's an edge rusher. Zach Bond is not that. And they keep ruining his cards because I do believe if they made Zach Bond like an actual user, like an actual linebacker, he would have 94, 95 speed. But since they think he's an edge rusher, they dropped his speed down because they don't want a 96, 97 speed edge rusher yet. Now moving on to the LTDs, we have Big Play Slay here. This card is going to be very, very good. 95 speed base. Can go up to 97 speed on the Eagles team. Everybody knows the Eagles team is very good. There is no flaws in this card, honestly. Especially since the Eagles team is probably the best team right now. You can see this card 97 speed. Car is probably going to cost $2 million being the LTD, but I think it would be worth. Now moving on to the other LTD, we have Khalil Shakur, 95 speed. Bills team, like I said, if they keep getting upgrades, Bills team could be the move. Earlier I said if the two teams that make the Super Bowl, those two teams are going to be the best teams regardless. So if the Bills make the Super Bowl, this Khalil Shakur could be 96, 97 speed. You can see people start to make 40 of one team, 20 of the other team for the two teams who make the Super Bowl. That's probably going to be the popular thing to do when it comes down to who actually made the Super Bowl. Khalil Shakur is a pretty good card. He is in that good height range between like the 5'11 to 6'2 range. That's a good height range for receiver. I think they just catch. They have really good animations. They run routes crisp. This close striker is going to be good. But that's all for today, guys. If you enjoyed a video like this, just rating what EA's flaws are, let me know down in the comments. But like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.